Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
The SCCA Foundation is a 501c3 organization serving as the charitable arm of the Sports Car Club of America. One of the programs partially funded by the foundation is the SCCA Academy, an online learning management system used to keep real-life racing track officials up to date on the highest standards of race safety and officiating. Through this program, the SCCA Foundation is supporting the future of the best-trained corner workers and event officials in motorsport. You can support these efforts at www.sccafoundation.org. The search is over. The most comprehensive league scoring solution is here, with the ability for multi-level championships, custom incident tracking, post-race time penalties, support for heats, drop weeks display, multi-car team scoring, advanced web widgets, rookie championships, a custom paint system, and load those results in seconds. Visit extremescoring.info today.
Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, ricmotech.com.
Last time out was the first time that the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech GT3 Challenge took flight. It was at Road America, where we had 4 straights to really stretch our legs. This time out, the Cars and Stars are at Road Atlanta, one of the more twisting circuits that we'll see here in the championship. And I'll tell you this, under 2 miles, let's see here, 12 corners as well. Yeah, we're in for a great treat. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're watching us on slow motion broadcasting around the world. My name is Jeremy Scott. Alongside is Ron Maunz, and Joshua Wilkie is in the background, making it sound oh so good, live and in Memorex. And I've got to say this, I should say 2.52. I always think, Ron, for some reason it's under 2 miles, but still, this course is historic in its own right, and that's even after they put in this little chicane.
You know, in the panic of driving around Road Atlanta for a racer, it could be less than 2 miles, it could be 20 miles for all they know. They just know that they've got their hands full throughout. This track absolutely packs a punch, and I know I said this a lot about the last round of the championship at Road America, a quintessential sports car racing venue here in the States. Road Atlanta pretty high up there on the list, more known for more professional racing nowadays. Of course, the Petit Le Mans has been held every single year since 1998. But this was a home of the SCCA National Championship runoffs from when this track first opened back in 1970 all the way through until 1993, not too long before they added in that turn 10 chicane, which is the best overtaking opportunity of the lap. I adore this place. I love commentating on it as much as I love driving on it. I think we're in for an absolute hoot here tonight.
Let's take a look at the point standings, as we've only run one race, I should say, is qualifying well underway here at Road Atlanta. Of course, there are 2 classes here. You've got the GT3 Pro and the GT3 AM. Let's take a look at the pro standings. Lucas Dragata, no surprise here, your points leader in that 119 number Thomas Anga sim racing machine alongside Joshua Chinsky. We'll have our interviewer, Palakwi Grant, here in just a little bit. He sits 3rd in points, and we'll talk more about that. But look, as you go further down the line to about 8th place, Ron, it's tight, to say the least, already. Like I said, we're just 1 round in.
Oh, it absolutely is. We saw a very competitive race last time out, both in terms of the interclass battling between the drivers in Pro and the AM, and the drivers just squabbling up with each other. It was a fantastic race, so expecting that competitive trend to run through the rest of the season as we now take a look at your GT3 AM points.
Yeah, Joshua Vidal, your points leader there. Julio Barrero, I should say, sits 2nd in points, followed by Carlos Barrero, Aaron Sunday, and Jimbo Pfeiffer, rounding out your top 5. And you see the 15 cars took to the green last time out. And it's just such a tight points. You've got Noah Hogg and Russ Ruddick tied for points there in 13th as well. And we do have some new drivers as well that will be joining us this round here. Carter Janes, David Klimovic, Ilis Akbari, and Keith Stein as well. There are your championship standings for the team. Speed Lab Esports taking the top so far, 119 points over D2D Sim Racing with Velocity in third, and Thomas Enga in the fourth position right there. So still a lot left to play for as we get this underway. We have a whole lot more to talk about throughout here, but I think we have Palaki Grant joining us in the booth here at some point, if he's already there. As you see, Chinsky, your fastest with an 18.654 as Akbari on his flyer. Jimbo Pfeiffer, 12 fastest in that 00, as now you see the number 55 making his way, his debut here at Road Atlanta for the Ricmotech GT3 Championship. By the way, let's talk about some of our sponsors real quick. Of course, we're going to thank Ricmotech High Performance Sim Racing Equipment for being the title sponsor of this series. Check them out at ricmotech.com. Go setups and go fast. Use code XMS10 at checkout for a 10% discount. And the race stewards are sponsored by the SCCA Foundation. Visit them at sccafoundation.org. The SCCA Foundation provides funding for the SCCA Academy, training the next generation of race worker and volunteers that make road racing events possible. So you see the Aston Martin of Akbari closing in. And of course, Ron Maunz playing the part of Casper the Friendly Ghost here tonight. As 1 second he's here, the next second he's gone.
I've been here the whole time.
Oh,
I've been enjoying the
not creepy.
silky sounds of Mr. Jeremy Scott. I'm lurking quietly in the background, ominously like a specter looking over the broadcast booth.
Well, and for that, I'm leaving now because I am creeped out.
Hey, you know what? Fair enough. So welcome in everybody here to Slow Motion Broadcasting. I'll just take over here. Oh boy, but I will say, and this is honest, nice to see some new blood come into this series. Elias Akbari running here in this race. Russ Ruddick, who's actually the systems kind of manager. He's the other guy that works out a lot of the XMS systems, including the race control software that'll be used throughout tonight. Nice to see him running out here on the racetrack. And Jeremy, I believe Palaki Grant is now among us there in the interview waiting area. So I'll drag him in to have a quick little chat with a driver that I know to be a very impressive racer here in this championship.
Yeah, he really is. Palaki Grant, one of the two BMWs driving in the series. And Palaki, first of all, great run at Road America last weekend. Let's talk a little bit more about Road Atlanta and how these two are differing and how you're going to take that into account.
Yeah, as far as as far as Road Atlanta goes, I mean, one of these courses, they're kind of similar in terms of confidence, right? There's a lot of sweeping corners here and a lot of corners that go right into the long straights. But of course, one of the most important corners here is going to be turn 3. That one's coming over the crest after turn 1, a sweeping right-hander that goes uphill over into a chicane, and nailing that time in and time out consistently is going to be key here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point right there. Is, you've got, people think, oh, it's turn 1, turn 10. No, it is turn 3 where it's absolutely tough. And of course, last time out, you had both BMWs on the podium. Is this a strong car that everybody else is underestimating?
It's mostly just how it operates around the corners and how it's managing to at least keep up when it's in the draft and the straights. One of the key weaknesses, though, in this car is longevity, however, which is one of the things that caught me off and caught me out in the last race. Joshua in his Corvette just managed to have very good braking and very good pace as my tires fell away. So I'm looking to see if I can strategize that and keep the tires in a good window throughout this entire race, and hopefully it doesn't fall off on me.
Hey, Palaki, it's Ron here in the broadcast booth. I was just going to ask you a little note about the BMW. We do have a bit of BOP here this week, and the BMW, along with the Lamborghini, the only car that had no power adjustment, no power added, no power lost. Is that going to give you a little bit more confidence heading off into tonight?
To be honest, I looked at the BOPs, I tested the other different cars, and the thing is that even with the BOP, there's the weaknesses and strengths of each car are, even though they're dialed down, they're still there. I feel the Corvette's going to have a really good, strong push on the straights tonight. BMW is going to be decent in the corners, but I mean, one of the major factors was trying to see whether or not the power was going to try and fluctuate gaps, particular when we're close. I have a feeling with how I saw Joshua in practice today and qualifying to see set a blazing time, I am predicting he's going to be up top. I'm going to give him a run for his money, but if he manages to keep that window up in front of me, it's going to be very hard for me to pass him.
Hey, Palakoi, before we let you go, first time back in a couple of years. Do you feel like you're back to championship form, or is there still something left in the tank that you got to show us?
It's funny you should mention that, being that Kevin is also back after being on a hiatus and he's now running the series again. I feel it's almost serendipitous that we came back at this series at this time. I feel as far as my performance goes, I'm just trying to be consistent, keep my form up. I know there are new players here, and GT3 wasn't the one I was really in championship contention with, but as long as I can keep the drive in there, as long as I can keep myself and my nose clean and myself in the front constantly, then yeah, there's a shot. I'm not going to call it yet, but I'm going to try my best and give it all I got, as I do every race.
Driver number 71, BMW M4 for D2D Sim Racing, Palakoi Grant. They're joining us here in the booth. Good luck, and we'll see you down the road.
Yep, thanks, Joshua, Jeremy, Ron. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you much. Appreciate it. And let's go ahead. And I think that I heard that the qualifying session is done, dusted, and we're about ready to get set for 55 minutes of racing here around Road Atlanta. It was a 15-minute forward-lap lone qualifying system for these drivers. By the way, Ron, we're running a mid-afternoon race sim, 2 p.m. qualifying, so a lot of the heat's on the track, but see the cars gridded up right now. Let's take a look at that starting grid here tonight as you see the flyby of drivers getting ready on the front stretch. And on the pole, drum roll please, it's Joshua Shinsky, Palakoi Grant alongside in row 1, Cater James and Eduardo Cabal, row 2, Barrero and Spiker who make up row 3, row 4. Carlos Barrero, that's going to be an interesting lineup there with John Kroom alongside. By the way, Julio Barrero, your AM pole sitter, rounding out your top 10, Ron, Chris Thorman, and Joshua Vidal.
Yeah, and then looking outside of your top 10 here tonight, we're going to have Bobby Child, another one of the series admins, the Paint Maestro here in XMS. Going to start this race in 11th, next to Jimbo Pfeiffer there in P12. The lucky spot P13 at the start of tonight's race here is going to be the number 38 car of Jeff Jacobs, who we got the other chance to have a chat with just 1 week ago. Another one of the series admins, somebody who's known me ever since I was a very, very small person. I was about 4'2" back then. Keith Stein is in 14th, David Patton in P15. Ryan Amola is another new driver, I believe, here, running in 16th in that qualifying session. Jasper Pasternak will start this race in 17th. David Klimovich will be in P18. Noah Hogg will be in 19th, with Aaron Sunday completing your top 20.
I want to say hello to the Aaron Sunday Fun Day crew. Dale Maxwell will be alongside Johan Alvarez in row 11, row 12, Russ Ruddick and Ilya Sakbari. Good starting position there. Not too bad, 8 seconds behind, and that's a good way to start here, as I believe that's it. 24 cars are running tonight here at Road Atlanta. 50-minute race. By the way, a little note that we were given by the administrators, drop week will be shown and reflected in the standings after round 3 of the scoring. You only get one of those drop weeks, so really got to make it count whether or not you don't show up, or you're kind of banking on a bad race. But if you're running for the points championship, Rod, you want to make sure to make every race, because if you miss a race and have a bad race, essentially it's going to be championship over.
Yeah, that is very important here in this series. You know, these XMS championships always pack a punch. These drivers have to bring their A game week in and week out. It just adds in another little extra note to it all. As we see the drivers run around this racetrack, I will note that we saw it was marked as Cater James. I saw there slotted in third. I think our broadcast over as maybe slightly misskewed, because it's Carter James there and the number 19. I recognize the name. I was like, that's rather interesting. So we do apologize about that. We'll look to get that fixed throughout this broadcast. But no, Jeremy, I'm absolutely looking forward to this race. These drivers, you know, they got to bring their A game week in and week out to try and contend for the crown here this season. But that's a whole lot easier said than done around this monster of a track. It's a bit of a silent killer in a way, with some fantastic history with every single inch of asphalt. I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is a fantastic way, a 1-2 punch really, to start off this season here.
You know, my first race as public relations for a series was actually here at Road Atlanta. So I know what it takes to get around this place, and it's absolutely beautiful. If you ever get a chance to come, definitely do it. If you can get there for Petit Le Mans, well, I wish you luck, because we've tried that, because I thought about that for my 40th. Yeah, not happening. All right, so we will wait. We're going to do something new today. We are not going to call the green flag. We're going to wait for race control to call the green flag, as Chinsky has a nose up front on Grant. You see the 24-car field making their way out of turn number 10A, headed towards 10B. Now, we'll wait the call for the green flag as they come up under the Fox Factory Bridge. Glad to have you with us here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Now you saw the field work their way up through the gears as they start to go single file around turn number 1. Here comes Grant to the inside of Chinsky. He's going to try the dive to the inside, almost 3 wide, and let's see what happens through turn number 3 as they go up and over the crest. This is the corner that Palakli said. No, Grant does not get that as the Aston moves his way up to the front.
Yeah, fantastic start here for Carter James, and it ends in tears as they head their way down the hill. Contact. Chinsky, multiple drivers stacking up, and Aston Martin up on his side. That's Bobby Childs with a sledgehammer shot there into the concrete.
Now, if there's one thing you don't want to do, that is take out the series administrator. And I will say this, the race stewards will not look too kindly upon that, as you are on board the back of the Diablo Sport BMW, who's somehow made their way to the lead. And look at that single file already, but a mayhem start through the S's as Palakli Grant gets ahead of Carter James. Eduardo Cabal, 1, 2, 3. You've got pros Julio Barrero, I should say, sitting there in 4th, battling for the lead. Here comes James to the inside of Grant, side by side through turn number 10A. They're going to go neck and neck as James is going to lose some position, but Cabal's taking his Ferrari to the inside, and your leader coming off of the first corner, I should say, is Palakli Grant.
Yeah, so good start there for Grant to shuffle up into that top spot, but disastrous for the drivers involved in that incident. Chinsky out, Thorman with a meatball flag, so too Bobby Childs. A really unfortunate series of events for those drivers. Of course, Chinsky, the first driver that got involved in that incident, and things just kind of snowballed out of control from there. More damage caused in that first lap crash than I see here in the city of Philadelphia every single time there's a sports match riot.
I've seen worse wrecks on the highway. Here comes the replay as let's see what happens. I'm wondering if Chinsky just got a little loose there. There may have been contact, and yeah, indeed, a little aggressive there, and that kind of set things in motion. And it just looks like, one car goes off, and then one thing led to another, and it looked like a junkyard at the end of the day.
Yeah, the other 2 drivers involved in that, you can see the Aston Martin. I believe that was Bobby Childs up on his side at the time. Chris Thorman, the other Aston Martin, involved in that. Teammates there in the 60 and the 17 cars. Very unfortunate to see them, as we'll take a look to show you their perspective through it all here. This is riding on board with the 17 of Bobby Childs. There's the contact being made, and you can see his teammate there farther up the road. That was Chris Thorman in the Pro Class number 60. He was the one that was actually flying it like a kite as they headed their way up the hill.
Yeah, that was just nowhere to go, as Thorman now coming out of the pits after getting that car worked on. Childs still in the pit, but Chinsky had way too much damage to continue, and that's given Grant 0.8 of a second lead over James, which James still copping some damage as well, so one has to wonder how much longer that he's going to be able to stay within the podium position. Oh, a little slide by Spiker as Spiker goes off in turn 6, loses 2 spots, and that's one of the other problem areas that we really didn't mention. Turn 5, those exit curbings will get you every single time.
Yeah, turn 5 is a silent menace around this racetrack. Actually, no, I'm not going to say it's a silent menace. It's a maniac banging a blunt end of an axe on your bedroom door in the middle of the night. As we see this, look at that. It's the curb and the gravel trap there on the outside. It is a 1-2 punch as you head your way through turn number 5. And the consequences are dire. There's very little room to run or hide as you head your way around this racetrack, especially coming out of turn number 5. If I had $1 for every single time I saw a driver lose control in the exit of that turn and wreck their race car, I'd probably be able to repair at least one of the lenses on the rear view mirrors.
Yeah, no, I would be actually not having to worry too much about doing the sim stuff. Oh wait, yeah, I'd still do it just because it's so much fun. As Klimvik trying to get around the inside of Johan Alvarez, that's for class position and overall position as they work their way through turn number 1. The Porsche on the outside. And of course, look who's back there as well. That 55 of Akbari. As they work their way coming out of turn number 2, nose to tail they come. And yeah, they saw what happened in that lap 1 incident, and they don't want to have to be part of that either. And this has got to be one of my favorite parts of this racetrack here. You go downhill, uphill, through the S's. You have to have 100% commitment to make your way through here as they work their way coming off of turn number 5, just barely touching that curbing. And you're already starting to see some sort of gravel there. And we're just 5 minutes into this race.
Yeah, of course, about a year and a half ago now, maybe even a little bit more, iRacing brought out a brand new physics update. So all the grass and the gravel, anything that's kicked off the racetrack back onto it, it's going to leave a mark. I remember doing a Formula V broadcast for the Weekend Warriors way back in late December of 2024, and the amount of gravel there on the outside of turn number 2 at Brands Hatch was unbelievable. They have to worry about that through turn number 5 a little bit later on here in this race, and side by side, heading down the backstretch into turn 10, Thorman on the charge. That's actually a swap of spots with a lap car there, as we see Noah Hogg coming down pit lane here in the number 41 machine. Quick little note as well here, as I was curious, I did hear a call come from race control. No action deemed in the incident involving the number 18, 17, 19, and 00 cars. That was the drama that we saw right there at the start of the race.
Okay, so that's an interesting call. No further action, but either way, let's just start shenanigans. And interesting to see Noah Hogg with that damage there. Here's Keith Stein as a Canadian trying to see if he can continue on this charge up through the field right now. You see the 84 Ferrari making his way onto the back straightaway. And you mentioned that, we both mentioned in the open that this track was just absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look at the replay because we can figure out what happened to Noah Hogg here as the Velocity Motorsports number 41. Well, that goes back to the start. Okay, here we go. Now here's some racing action, but already the front end is gone. So extra cooling on the Porsche heading into turn number 7. Let's see here. Well, that's still that. All right, we're going to try one more, and nope, there's still missing. So somewhere he got the Rexy treatment around the circuit, and we just don't know where.
Yeah, guys, bumper ripped off. That's what we call a Holmesburg welcome here in Philly.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Here's David Patton battling for 12th right now as he tries to go around Ryan Amolis, and Keith Stein not too far away from there. You're on board the Diablo Sport number 54 Sunday with a quick slowdown. He's able to capitalize on that as well as they work their way heading into the heavy braking zone here shortly. And I have a feeling that the longer that we get into this race, that turn 6 area is just going to become more and more like a bowling alley for some drivers. It's just a matter of, are they going to hit strikes, spares, or just go down the gutter?
I once bowled a 33 game. I'm not sure if that was even possible until then, and then I did it. So that shows you how good I am at anything outside of this race car stuff. Following this battle, though, is again really tense as they head their way down the hill into the braking zone at turn number 10. Talked about that being a slam dunk overtaking opportunity. It is compared to, again, some moves done earlier on in the lap. Could still end in tears as those drivers getting very familiar with each other side by side once again heading into the final turn. That would have been gutsy stuff. It's like a Josh Vidal trying to pick up the pieces here side by side with himself and the triple one into turn number 1, looking for that move, and that scrappy McLaren, and he's going to take that spot. What a move.
Vidal trying to accentuate what it should look like in Atlanta traffic around here, and gets up to 7th place. He's second still in the AMS right now as Carlos Barrero gets up to 4th place overall and the lead. Julio Barrero's been falling down the order. I did see that Jimbo Pfeiffer is in the pits. Now, something to keep in mind, if you're pitting now, most likely it's because you have damage because of the simple fact of these pit windows. The earliest you can come in really without having to stop twice is lap 17, and that's about, we still got some time, but either way, 14-gallon tank, it's going to be about 28 minutes on a full tank, so you're going to want to have to stop somewhere around the halfway point. If you're stopping now, you're going to have to do another stop because you're most likely copping some damage.
I always advocate for drivers to try and make the strategy as simple as possible. Simple works best when it comes to something like that. Just try and focus on primarily the driving. Don't have to worry about all the strategy and all the chicanery that goes on as a result of all that. These drivers not worrying about strategy on screen right now. They're worrying about a fantastic scrap. Look at Jeff Jacobs trying to get some moves done there in that number 38 Mercedes, diving down the inside, heading his way off through turn number 1. He's got to take P8 there. Josh Vidal was looking for the move once again on Julio Barrero, but did not go in his favor as we take a look and ride on board with this Mercedes, one of the oldest cars here, at least in the GT3 sphere on iRacing, able to get the moves done with a mighty run on that start-finish straightaway into turn number 1. Doesn't clip the coupon to get the 2-for-1 deal, but he still made it work.
Not a bad pass there by Jacobs as he takes his Mercedes into position right now. That's 6th. That's good enough for 6th in class as they work their way off of turn number 7. Bill Hogg climbing back up after his pit stop. He's up 20th, but as you see in the blue, he is one or more laps down already. So a tough go for the driver, the number 41 Velocity Motorsports Porsche. But he does have a new front grille, so you know what? He can go to the bar, smile at the ladies, and, well, hopefully he doesn't get the teeth knocked out of him once again. That's a little bit of a no-no right there, as you see some Pasternak holding off Klimovich once again. Klimovich going to take a dive to the inside in turn 10. Does the over-under work? No, because Klimovich kind of shut that front door on him as Pasternak had that toe in there, but they get the toe of the Corvette out from under them. They work their way downhill. By the way, Ron, this downhill here, the TV and the games just do not do it justice. It is absolutely awe-inspiring.
Oh, it has got to be an absolutely amazing racetrack to be here in person. I have not gotten the opportunity to go here myself. Jeremy, I know you've shared some stories of being here before. And one of our other colleagues here in Slow Motion Broadcasting, Mr. Charles Beauchel, my longtime co-commentator over on the Weekend Warriors, he got the opportunity to come here quite a couple of years ago. Certainly, the Petit Le Mans is on my sort of racing bucket list. It's, of course, up there with the Indy 500. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't at the very top of the list. But Petit Le Mans is still one of my favorite races. It's one that I still remember from my childhood. Nothing is as cozy as coming home, knowing that you got to go back to school the next day and just being able to sit down at the television and watch the Petit Le Mans in some comfy pajamas. That was my favorite activity to do back in middle school. Probably the only thing to come good out of that period of time, because it certainly wasn't my grades.
Well, I will say this, after doing the research of the 40th birthday bash, you either have to know somebody there or be born there in order to camp or be anywhere within a 1,000-mile radius of that facility. And our friends at OHND Racing let us know it's Vidal, not Vidal. So, yeah, Joshua Vidal
I feel
sitting there in
bad.
the top 10.
I feel bad now because
know,
in my extensive period of time doing race control with XMS from about August of 2023, nearly 3 years ago now, up until late 2024, I always called him Vidal. So I do apologize, Joshua. So either way, Vidal there in the number 26 machine doesn't change the fact that he's been feeling a world of pressure so far here in this race. That number 26 car has, I wouldn't say been on the backslide, but it's interesting to see how those McLarens are doing throughout the pack. They've been scrappy race cars so far.
Yeah, they really have the system. By the way, with you being myself as well, but since you've been in race control, you've trained for race control, you said Josh's last name wrong, you are more than well prepared to join the ranks of an IndyCar race director. So good job. Congratulations. Ryan Amelis, I'm sure we're saying that name wrong too. If we are, sorry. trying to hold off David Pettin. Now that's for an out-of-class battle, as you see the window stripe up at the top. Green means amateur, red means pro, but the Ferrari doing what it can to get ahead of the Aston. And here's the thing, Ron, with the Aston, we knew right away when the Evo package came out, this was an absolutely fantastic missile for the sports car ranks, but now the Ferrari is really starting to come onto its own, and you can't go wrong with either car because both of them are equally well handling race cars, and in real life, they're both good as well.
Yeah, I will say, once again, bringing up the BOP heading into this race, the Ferrari did get a small little hit. The Ferrari did get a small little hit when it came to the BOP. 98.5% power running through this race. Nothing got hit worse than the Mustang. That was at 97% heading off into this round of the championship. The Porsche's getting quite the big boost at 102.5, which is interesting to note here. Only a couple of Porsches I'm seeing out there on the racetrack. Noah Hogg, who we saw with the missing front bumper a little bit earlier on. Yes, he does have that extra power, but that is not enough power to outweigh the significant damage that was found on the front end of that car earlier on. Johan Alvarez in the other number 25 car, just bumped his way up into 16th. He is running in a Porsche, and that is just about it. A surprising note about those Porsches, which are usually one of the more popular cars when it comes to racing in the GT3 ranks here on iRacing. The fact there's only 2 of them, even with the little power bump that they had here heading off into the second round of the championship.
Yeah, BOP very prevalent here in the XMS series, as you see Jacobs trying to hold off Vidal and Stein. Again, Jacobs in the pro ranks, but Vidal and Stein, they're scrapping it out for the AM titles as they work their way headed down the long back straightaway. Hello. That Aaron Sunday I saw go sideways. That was a nice little save, though. Yeah, that may have been Sunday. No, that wasn't Sunday. So, sorry, guys. I misspoke. So, probably one of the lap down cars right there as they work their way down the straightaway. And here comes Jacob's train as they're coming into turn number 10A once again, nose to tail. Just been able to open up the gap between Vidal and Stein, but he's still not within a safe zone at this point because either one of those 2 behind him could really close in on the draft and try and make something happen. But the good news is you only can worry about that draft there on the back straightaway.
Yeah, so running good at the current moment. I was going to say when we were thinking that was Aaron Sunday, we're always looking for Sunday. That's what we can confirm, either out there on the racetrack or just in our day-to-day lives. But keeping our eyes on this pack as we go throughout this race. Interesting point that I do want to raise here, Jeremy, off the back of what was a very competitive opening round of the championship with AM drivers really dicing quite strongly in that opening race of the season. Of course, had a AM driver grab the overall pole in the form of Filippo Barbieri. I will say, as much as the AM drivers are still running very strong here tonight, Carlos Barbarero currently running in P4 as it stands currently. He's got a little bit of pressure here. Jean Kroon looking, trying to get the move done there, side by side, heading their way off into the turn 10 chicane. That's a fight for 4th at the moment. That's your highest classed AM racer at the current moment. He's barely clinging onto that spot. It's looking Kroon on the fight back.
Yeah, Kroon shoving that Ferrari right into the Lamborghini, coming off the final couple of corners. And now Barrero with a nice little defense there as they work their way through turn number 1. Nose to tail. It's an overall battle, not necessarily a class battle. And I've got to say, it's quite interesting seeing a Lamborghini so high up because they've essentially been Evo to death at this point. And you don't see many drivers using the Lamborghini, but when they do, some make it work, most can't. So still a lot of race left to play for. You see that beautiful Speed Lab Dream to Inspire number 14 working his way around the corners, working through the paces. And it's going to be interesting to see when the next Lamborghini came out. Oddly enough, I was at Chicagoland Speedway doing stuff at a local news talk station for the NASCAR race. Ran into a prominent racer who was making her way up through the ranks. She told me this next generation Lamborghini in real life is going to be a lot of fun, so that's something to watch out for. Another Barrero looking for an additional position. That's Julio Barrero as they work their way around the next couple of corners, up and over the bridge. And it's interesting how one Barrero is running a Lamborghini, the other a BMW.
Yeah, an interesting little splits between those two drivers there, trying to cover their bases. Of course, the BMW has the legs up on the straights, trying to get a move done, heading into turn number 1, flashing the lights there to Ilya Speaker there right up in front. That could have ended in tears if they tried to get the move done around the outside through there. I was just going to raise about that Lamborghini. It's a stalwart here in iRacing in the GT3 ranks, so too in real life. But seeing that car contend for victories on a regular basis is like spotting Bigfoot riding a unicorn.
No, it really is. As you see Keith Stein into the pits onto the jets with number 84. And it's about where we would see the first pit stop. So we are within that pit window. It'll be interesting to see who comes in next. So Stein trying for the overcut here, 18 seconds in and out of his pit stall. Now making his way down onto pit road. As he's going to fall back to about 1920. I think he's going to fall down to 19. So one of the last cars on the lead lap. Now, Ron, the question begs, when do you come in for your pit stop?
Yeah, I advocated for that halfway mark to maybe be a good time, make it as simple for a racer as possible. I say this as somebody who, even despite the fact he hasn't stepped in a kart in about 3 years now, a racer is always a racer, doesn't matter whether they're driving or not. And a race car driver's mind is not one that can compute with all of that stuff. You know, it takes the nerve of a fighter pilot to drive a race car. You've got to balance a lot. You've got to worry about braking markers. You got to worry about eyeballing overtaking opportunities, all while balancing a piece of metal around a sheet of asphalt for an extended period of time, all with a small little mistake costing you everything. However, it's going to add in a little kind of, we'll say it's a pit crew member shaped wrench into the works. If you have to worry about the strategy turn after turn, I always say try and make it as simple as possible from your perspective there behind the wheel, so you don't have to focus about the pit stops. You don't have to agonize about those pit stops as well. You can just say, okay, look, coming in at the 25-minute mark, 25 minutes to get there, 25 minutes to get to the checkered flag. I can just worry about that. The only wrench that gets thrown into the works as a result of all that is the worry about how this race can go. This being a timed race, if that race leader, whoever it may be come time for the very end, it's looking good for Paliquid Grant right now, but whoever is leading come time for that white flag, if he crosses that line with a second left on the clock, that's going to add in an extra 2 miles, which may not be the biggest thing in the world here at Road Atlanta, but every little inch can make a huge difference. If you start sputtering as you head your way down that start-finish straightaway, thinking you're grabbing the checkered, only to take the white, I think the words "oh shiitake" will probably be the ones that pop into one's brain.
Yes. No, I don't disagree, but yeah, it's just one of those things. By the way, we saw the race between Carlos Barrero and John Crew, and we saw that Crew kind of gave up the ghost. Because he did that, now Elia Spiker came into the fight, so now you see Crew starting to really hammer on Barrero for that 4th spot as the pit stops are looming. You see Jimbo Pfeiffer still into the pits. It's the second pit stop of the day. David Patton into the pits as well, so we'll see what he can do here as he is on his, I don't think he's on his pit box yet, and now we start to see more and more drivers making their way into pit road as Elias Akbari gets the black flag for coming in too fast. That's another wrinkle in the plans too, Ron, because the pit in, it's downhill, so you really got to make sure that you're on your marks. Let's see what happens here as Akbari coming down onto pit road, and let's keep an eye on this course. In spite of the chicane, yeah, I would imagine that if he did break it, and it was definitely probably not by much.
Yeah, but it is very easy to speed there on pit lane. As speaking of, we've got a massive pack of cars coming into the pits right about now. John Kroom into the pits, Ilya Speaker coming into pit lane as well. The likes of Ryan Amolis, Dale Maxwell, David Klimovich, Johan Alvarez, all coming down pit lane. Quick little point that I do want to raise, receiving a word from race control that there was an incident between cars number 64 and number 23. That was Ryan Amolis and David Payton. Unfortunately, unfortunately, I believe it's Peyton that will be having that incident reviewed further post-race. So won't be able to let you know about any sort of penalties that come out for that, but just keep an eye on those two cars once we look at your final race result a little bit later on here tonight. But regardless of what penalties may come down later on here tonight, one thing that we do know for certain here, Jeremy, is that the drivers are soon to come down pit lane.
And here they are, your leaders all, well, they're not in yet, I should say. I saw the right, I thought, oh, they're all in. No, they're not all in, Jeremy. Come on, you know better than that. There's Ryan Abolis coming around in 16th spot, so it'll be interesting to see where Grant Cabal, James, and the Barreros, by the way, now 4th and 5th together on the track, so within striking distance of each other, because John Kroom came in there and all those drivers behind him as well. For the most part, deciding to come in. Let's see if your leaders also decide that it is going to be time for them to come into the pits. There's Kroom there in 10th place. There is your leader coming around turn number 6, staying up for 7th, trying to put not Bobby Childs, but Noah Hogg yet another lap down. Poor Noah Hogg having a rough go, but down the back straightaway. As at D2D Racing, Johan Alvarez copping a black flag as well. Jimbo Pfeiffer, our second car out of the race. You see on the left-hand side of your screen. Now down into turn number 10. Let's keep an eye on this, as we are going to reach the halfway point by the time that Grant Cabal and James all reach that stage, as Akbari still needs to serve that black flag penalty. And here comes your leader into pit road, heavy on the brakes, down to first gear. Does he get it in time? Yes, he does. No pit lane from race control yet. There's the black flag as Grant makes his way into the pits, and Cabal is going to stay out and take the lead.
Yeah, so new leader for the first time, Palakwi Grant coming down pit lane here in this number 71 car. Palakwi mentioned it during the interview that you had a little bit earlier on the broadcast, Jeremy. A veteran of XMS competition, took a step aside over the past couple of seasons, is now back and is certainly looking to have a good time here this season. Julio Barberera coming down pit lane along with Ilyas Akbari. That's for a second black flag, I believe. Saw the pit lane infraction. There's been another penalty, this one issued out automatically by race control for incident point violations. Keeping an eye on Palakwi now out and away, although that pit stop a bit on the longer end, Jeremy. 21.8. You compare that to the other drivers that came down pit lane right before. John Kroom, 18.8. Ilias Speaker, 19.4. 18 seconds, 19 seconds. Really, that is the norm. 21.8. That's definitely cautious at best when it comes to fuel. Maybe could be disastrous. Had a big margin heading down pit lane, so that's one thing working in Palakwi's favor, but you don't want to give up time too much. I always say that a big gap in a motor race is like a spare parachute whenever you go skydiving. It's great to have, it gives you some reassurance, but in an ideal world, you would never have to use it.
Alvarez answers his black flag. I would imagine Akbari has only maybe 1 or 2 laps to answer it, as James and Carlos Barrero come into the pits. Now, here's why I'm not too worried about the long pit stop here, as you also see Jeff Jacobs come into the pits. Palakwi had a 5 to 6 second pit stop, or sorry, gap. So I would imagine that he would probably have Cabal out behind him 2, maybe 3 seconds. So that long pit stop isn't going to hurt him too much. It might hurt him a little bit there, as you see that a little tough getting into his pit box, Jeff Jacobs is, and you see that James just flipping on that throttle. He gets out and underway. No damage repair out of the number 19, but here comes your earlier leader working his way up through the S's.
Yeah, so Palakwi Grant back up to 4th in front of Carter James. So gonna be a swaparoo between those drivers. Still waiting to see when your race leader will come down pit lane. That, of course, at the current moment being Eduardo Cabal. Be interesting to see when that car comes into the pits, that Ferrari running up towards the north end of the field. Talked about that Ferrari having a slight power penalty. May be able to just extend the lengths a little bit more on the fuel stint. Not too sure either way. Cabal's now come into the pits. Keeping an eye to see Joshua Vidal potentially coming into the pits here from 2nd. Aaron Sunday may come down pit lane here as well. The 26 McLaren in P2 certainly does. Keeping our eye on Sunday, who was the latest racer to come into the pits last time out at Road America. So some things may change, others may stay the same. I will say a lot of spots changes there for Aaron Sunday. 17 spots gained since the drop of the green flag.
Aaron liking to push it, so, get out there, get as much on the track as you can, as Palakui Grant will come across the line, and he will go up to second place. He will be about 8 seconds behind Aaron Sunday. Right now, he is your amateur leader. You got to go back to Carlos Barrera, who will re-inherit that pit lead, the AM lead, as he does right now, passing Vidal on the track, headed towards turn number 1. So, once again, Grant is back to your GT3 Pro leader, but Sunday on the track is your leader, but he has yet to pit. So your aggregate leader, big words, I know I like to use them sometimes, is Carlos Barrera.
Last big word I learned like that was mayonnaise, Jeremy. I can't tell you. But one thing I do know for sure is that Aaron Sunday eyeballing a pit stop here in a couple of moments' time. One point that I do want to raise about this championship sets it apart from the other XMS series. Fixed setups here in this championship, so these drivers all basically running to the same lengths. It's all about driving style and certain finesse. The first time I got the opportunity to commentate on Aaron Sunday was in the Porsche Club of America race. I believe it was at Willow Springs, and he put in a good driver with some good fuel strategy throughout that race. He stays out for one extra lap, nothing more, nothing less, and now comes down pit lane with about 20 minutes left on the clock. Palakui Grant now going to cycle out back into the race lead, and still with a pretty healthy margin, 4.8 seconds. So that slow stop there was maybe just a slight little glimmer of hope for the drivers behind, who may very well find themselves in a battle for that final 2 podium spots. Cabal and Carter James currently covered by only 0.6 of a second.
But here's my question to you, Ron. Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Is mayonnaise an instrument? That's, if I had $1 for every single time I made a SpongeBob reference during a broadcast, I would now have about $2. So I'd be able to buy myself a brand new instrument in the form of a jar of mayonnaise.
Well, horseradish isn't an instrument either. Oh, that's some contact there between Klevich and Moyles. Moyles gets a little loose there as Noah Hogg closing in for that 14th spot. And talk about a little bit of bad luck on the part of the Ferrari as he slid a little bit, made some contact, and Maxwell was able to sneak his way through. How he did, I don't know. We'll get a replay here in just a little while. Actually, we'll get that right now as that's actually through the S's. As Moyles, look at that, taking that Ferrari and making it a lawnmower. I always thought that the Lamborghini started out as a lawnmower through turn number 6. A little bit of a wiggle there, but still kind of tough for Moyles as the Israeli driver tried to see if he can make his way back up to 13th. And again, that was a battle for position in the AM class. Down the long back straightaway they go. Now, Moyles has opened up a big gap, but there's your leader, Palakui Grant, sitting there as your leader. And he's got to get 4.6 seconds. And yeah, I kind of misjudged my timing because I thought, okay, every half second, every second of the pits is like worth 2 seconds or whatnot on the track. But still, longer stop. And like you said, Ron, he's probably thinking long game because he's thinking, okay, I could be crossing the line here at 49-40, 49-58, and they're not going to throw a checker flag for me.
Again, drawing some experience from many of the other times I've gone to cover timed races, it can get very tense if you find yourself thinking, okay, I need this race to run to a certain way. If it goes the way that I think and we get the checkered flag with a certain amount of laps left to go, that'll be fine. But if it goes the other way, that could spell disaster. It certainly happens on a lot of the bigger tracks for sure. If you think a race is going to end 1 lap earlier than it does at Spa, you will be tucked in for a good night's rest, so to speak. So it's a very, very fine game that you have to play here at the very end. I think Palakui Grant was able to afford himself the chance to say, okay, look, I've got the benefit of a good gap. I don't have to worry about, just trying to build that a little bit through these pit stops. I don't think I'm under attack from the drivers behind. I can afford to just take it a little bit easy here at the very end of the race. Give yourself just a little buffer as we get towards the end. So I'm liking this from Palakui Grant. I'm trying to find anything else here. This will be a slow motion broadcasting lore lesson for both yourself, Jeremy, and many of the viewers tuning into this broadcast. Here on SMB, we have something called the Thompson Trophy, named after company founder Mr. Adam Thompson in his Formula V Weekend Warriors debut, who ran out of gas in a V with about a half a lap left to go at Alton Park. Anybody who runs out of fuel since, we award them lovingly with that trophy. Aaron Sunday did have one of the shorter stops out of everybody, but he was able to time that out quite well, being the last driver to come down into the pits. We'll have to see if anybody picks up a Thompson Trophy here in this race, because right now it's looking like everybody pit lane wise was pretty good. If anything, the drivers were rather conservative and cautious in their pit lane approach.
Got a replay here with Carter James. We saw that he was close to second place and then copped a slowdown penalty. Big one. Oh, that's why. Because he decided to go for the Joker lap. And by the way, we don't have any of those here at Road Atlanta. So that was a very, very big save there. As Ryan Moyles, does he finally get one of the two positions that he lost? And indeed, it looks like that he will. And what a nice little pass there until it wasn't. So, unfortunately, he doesn't have the Jimmy Johnson horseshoe. I take that back. He does, because that could have been back end taken out right there.
That could have ended in an absolute disaster there. Unfortunate either way for Moyles, a newcomer in that number 23 machine, but looking for some better runs as we go throughout the rest of this championship. Still a long way left to go. And of course, next time out here in this series, point of note, we're going to be heading off to another classic in American sports car racing, that being Sebring, and we're going to be running that race for an extra 15 minutes. It'll be a 65-minute long race, one of two feature-length events throughout this season. Of course, you'll be able to see the action all season long here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. It's got to be that and Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for the two 65-minute long races throughout this season. Two very, very different species in racetrack form there.
Yeah. And anytime I've gone to Sebring, I've always roasted, so I might just turn the heat on just for, poops and chuckles to make my way through there and probably tear my feet up with the pavement. And yes, I probably will be saying a lot during the broadcast, but repave Sebring, just do it. And also bank turn number 17. Here comes a Moyles to the inside of Hogg. Oh, another contact. I'll tell you what, Moyles having so many problems, but this time he's able to make his way around. But then again, using some good old-fashioned Grand Am argy-bargy.
Yeah, definitely got physical as they headed their way through this braking zone. You got the ABS here in these GT3 cars, so you can lean on it quite a lot. Top of fifth gear, spamming down on the downshift as he tries to get the move done. Contact made. Certainly Race Control will have a look at that to figure out what the deal may have potentially been. Not hearing that it's under review quite yet, but I can imagine there may be a potential warning. I wouldn't imagine that would be a penalty. But we'll just have to find out. That was certainly an ambitious move heading down into turn number 10. Going back to the point I raised, Jeremy, it's a spot where you can get a move done. One of the easiest spots to get a move done, but it's easy, relatively speaking, to try to get a move done through the final turn here. It is still not a slam dunk.
No, it's not, but, just looking at that incident, I honestly, I see a 50-50 call, the racing incident. Move on. Unfortunately, both Hogg and Moyles having just days they want to forget. They want the clock to hit 50 minutes so that way they can just put the race car in the trailer and just call it a day. You see the Barreros battling for the lead in the AM pit class. This is the battle for 16th between David Patton and Jasper Pasternak. We saw Jasper earlier on, a little bit higher up with the Velocity Motorsports Corvette, trying to do what he can, the 127. Trying to see if he can at least finish the race a little bit higher than he started, but Patton about a half second ahead, and it's an out-of-class battle, but still one worth watching because you got Aston, you've got a Corvette working their way around the track. Patton taking that Diablo Sport number 64, turn 3, and setting the crest through. Now we make our run down the S's, where that Aston is just on fire through there.
Yeah, that Aston Martin has been a pretty strong car here this season, and one of the more popular ones throughout the pack. We saw David Payne there. We're following him right now in the number 64 car. He had the Aston Martin. Bobby Childs and Chris Thorman had the Aston Martin. Unfortunately, we got a better view of the underside of those cars, certainly for Thorman after that incident right towards the start of the race. Elias Akbari, the newcomer here in this championship, running in the Aston Martin as well. Carter James as well, currently running third in the other top running Aston here in this pack. Taking a quick little gander at the incident that really set the tone for an unfortunate set of circumstances. There's Shinsky making contact with Carter James as a field approached there. Can't really see it through the trees, but everybody trying to scramble. I believe that may have been exactly where Noah Hogg picked up that front bumper damage, and Thorman had the most wild ride of them all. Was up onto, I think he had all four up off the deck, certainly had two wheels up off the ground, and yeah, I can't even imagine how that would have felt in that ride. It's we're not at VIR, so we can't say it's the roller coaster. They have the rights to call that section the roller coaster. I don't think Road American can infringe upon that, but that is the Road Atlanta, pardon me. But either way, it was a roller coaster ride for those drivers that got caught up in that mess.
I know we've been doing some strange things with the FCC, but I didn't think we were censoring crashes like this. And, oh man, that could have gotten the FAA involved in that one. As you see, there's Bobby Child sliding his way through. Shinsky out of this race early on. A little bit of ta-ta-ta. That'll be a team meeting later on tonight as they both try and go for the same piece of real estate coming off the final turn. And now you see Thorman getting that nose up front into the Albus Corporate. Here comes Childs once again, side by side. A little bit of contact there as Childs going to say, you know what? I'm the Lord and Savior of this facility. I'm the Lord and Savior of this series. You're going to let me by, as he gets on the throttle just a little late to kind of say something to Thorman. But Thorman's going to answer back, coming through the S's as they climb their way towards turn number 5. And now you see Childs open up a one-car length gap.
Oh, that got real physical at the start of this lap. These drivers not really in a fight with anybody else. They ran into that drama at the start. They haven't really been able to get back into the fight for some of the higher up spots. So at this point, just looking to have a little bit of fun here at the moment. D2D having a party here at the back of the pack as it stands currently, as here comes Thorman attacking once more. Childs did not get a good exit, heading down this back straightaway, a massive back straightaway at that, ticking over to be about 0.8 of a mile. It is insane here on the back straightaway, a straight that they used to land planes on way back in the day to bring in car parts. I was going to say Central and South American healing supplements.
That wasn't the only facility that they did that at, but that's a story for another day from my buddy Ryan Eversley. The Barreros are going nose to tail with one another, coming for 5th and the lead in the AM class. And they've got Vidal Stein way far back, so they don't have to worry too much about having to deal with any kind of repercussion, as Ekbari's got another solid black flag. So a rough go for the first-time driver here, as he's going to have to go down pit road and answer that, whether it's a pass-through or a stop-and-go. Maxwell with the slowdown penalty. We'll see what Akbari does as he decides, you know what, I just better go ahead and do that. I have a feeling, though, that one was for incident limits, and this may have been the reason why. Around 6, and the car deciding, yep, I'm going to go agricultural.
And a little hop, skip, and a jump there going to cost, as I will say here in this championship, you do have incident point limits here in these races, and then repeated ones are actually not divvied out by iRacing. It's actually divvied out by the wonderful XMS race control software. Got the opportunity to use that for many, many moons. It is a tremendous bit of software. Of course, Kevin Ford, race director here in this series, been using that to full effect here throughout the night. Although he hasn't really been tested all that much, it's been a very smooth start to this race, as it has been a start to this season. We're 2 races in, and we haven't really racked up too much of a crash repair bill. These drivers have been keeping it very smooth, very tidy. It's some of XMS's best, and that is part of the reason why they've been able to put together some very good races at the start of this season.
Yeah, it's funny, you take a look at the left-hand side of your screen with the tower, the orange being really close, yellow being kind of close-ish, white nowhere in the ballpark of trying to make any kind of position. This has been an absolutely fantastic series on the standpoint of drivers, to say the least, and they're showcasing their talent and how they're doing. Remember, Palaquid Grant was 4 seconds ahead of Eduardo Cabal. Now he's 6.4 seconds. That just goes to show you that the more that you race, the better you're going to get. And really, it speaks to the bigger of the XMS family of race series. You know, they had to make another series just because there's such high demand for their Monday night series. So now they have a GT3 series, which is also so popular. By the way, rumor has it they're looking to do a touring car series. Hopefully that'll be popular as well as touring cars. You think the GT3s are fun beating and banging on each other? You need to watch the British touring car, because let me tell you, that is a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, Vidal closing in on Jeff Jacobs for overall position number 8. And again, right now, Vidal, the bottom step of the podium for the AMs. He's got to hurry up because Keith Stein is starting to close in there to battle for that podium spot.
As you can tell, that was close because it sounded like I sat on a cold toilet seat heading out of turn number 5. That could have ended in tears. It's once again the curb there on the outside. It's very high. It's in a bad spot. The cars bottom out there, even in these sports cars. And it is just everything that a race car does not want to do is what a race car has to do in order to get through that turn at speed. So just adding in a little complication into this chase down as it starts to get intense. That's Jeff Jacobs trying to get a move done there on the other lap car. This is heading down into turn number 10, and that's not the best spot to try and let the drivers by. I believe that was Russ Ruddock trying to let him pass there. I will say Jeff and Russ, as they usually are, in the same voice chat, so maybe a little bit of strategery going on there, allowing Jeff to go past at a good time. Certainly not the case, but we'll say it is anyways, just for the funnies, as it is still a pretty intense fight for these final 3 spots inside of the top 10.
Less than 5 minutes left to go, and Jeff Jacobs trying some sort of habdashery. Never. Working their way through the S's. You know, that blue looks absolutely fantastic on that Mercedes-Benz. I'll cut him some credit in spite of the Florida Gator signs. He goes off into the runoff. That was not the plan, as now Vidal and Stein go around. So now they're going to be on their own to fight for the bottom step of the podium, as the Barreros are also falling back, but they're still not within striking distance. They're 11 seconds ahead of the battle for third. Here's what happens is it looks like he just launches over the exit curbing, then does some agricultural work, and those two who are battling for that third place at the end said, thank you very much. We're going to go off and have a race on our own.
Yeah, so proving the point that very specific sections of this racetrack have booby traps lined up around them. One small little step in the wrong way, and the consequences are going to be dire. I am curious why Jeff has the Florida Gators little decal there on his car. I mentioned this a little bit earlier on there, and I passed it off as he met me when I didn't have the other. I just did not have like the bottom half of my legs, and I was only 4'2" back then. Jeff actually helped me out a whole lot back in my karting days. To tell you the truth, folks, Jeff Jacobs is actually who helped me get into this broadcasting stuff altogether, helped me get my first ever broadcasting opportunity way back in the spring of 2023. And despite the fact that, been in the city of Philadelphia, him and I both members of the Philly region of the SCCA still, he's got the Florida Gators logo on that car. I'm going to have to receive a little bit of lore to maybe share for the next round of the championship here in 2 weeks' time on SMB when the series rocks up to Sebring. Of course, have an extra 15 minutes in that race, so we'll have a bit more time to rehash some stories that we like to share here occasionally on the air. However, as we get towards the end of this race, Jeremy, I think the main star of the night has certainly been Palaquid Grant. He took that race lead, grabbed a hold of that torch, and has run off into the night with it.
Now, if he keeps this up, we're going to have to interview him twice, so that'll be quite interesting to say the least. Works its way through turn number 6 as you're on board with the number 71 BMW around 7 once again. And if I'm doing my math right, he's going to cut it close to the white flags. I think he might hit 2 laps to go, depending on when he crosses that start-finish line. Can we see the fastest lap times right now on the tower? Because I want to go ahead and do some quick calculations as 1:18. Oh yeah, it's going to be 2 laps to go when we come by. So still plenty of time left to go in this race for anything to happen, to say the least. We got good battles for the lead in AM right there, and that's also 5th place overall. And then you've got Joshua Vidal and Keith Stein still battling each other for the bottom step of the podium, as the Barreros try to see who's going to be on that top step. And they may just shove each other off here on the podium. I'm not talking about on the track, because you don't want to draw the ire of the race director.
Yeah, no, the slaps, especially from race control on the wrist, hurt even more than anybody. So you want to try and stay on race control's good side more often than not. But Palanque Grant certainly looks to be on track for victory, as I will say there's a little bit of a family feud going on in the fight for 5th right now. It's Carlos and Julio Barrero currently battling it out for that P5 spot. This could get very intense here. The 2 speed lap cars, the Lamborghini, the small little insect compared to that, flying brick of a BMW right behind. This could get very tense, especially heading down that massive back straightaway. I have a feeling that this fight is not over, and of course, it's not just a family feud. This is a fight for the win in the AM category as well. So lots to play for here in this fight, as these drivers have about a lap and some change left to go.
They work their way down the back straightaway, still nose to tail. It's about ready to be gloves off time for these 2 drivers for the AM lead as they work their way down into turn number 10. Does Julio have an inside jump on Carlos? No, he does not, as they work their way around. Palanque Grant, though, comes across the line. White flag is out. 1 lap to go for the number 71, as he has been nothing but dominant all race long. There's Eduardo Cabal, about as close as he's been, was about 4 seconds. Well, now he's about 7.5 seconds behind your leader, as you see the Barreros going nose to tail through turn 1. They're going to receive the white flag, so less than 2 laps for them to get the AM lead as they work their way all around turn number 2 and now into 3, setting up for the stages of a final lap shootout all through the S's. 2 big opportunities for Carlos to have to defend against Julio, as Julio's going to try to go high, wide, and handsome coming off of turn 6. He's going to think better of it. Turn 5, I should say. There's turn 6 as they work their way around there once again. Nose to tail, that BMW. It's hungry. It's waiting for an opportunity. Of course, you got Ilya Spiker right behind, who could have a say in this as well, as Spiker closes within 0.6 of a second. It's going to be the Barreros. Which one's going to be on top of the AM class? As now they start to speed up down the straightaway. Checkered flag is out. Palanque Grant is your winner, but the battle for the AM lead in 5th place is what we're interested in. Carlos dives to the inside a little bit. Julio looks to the inside. They're side by side through 10A, now through 10B, as Carlos has the advantage, but Julio is closing it ever so slightly. Here comes Ilya Spiker trying to make their place known. And Carlos Barrero going to get the win and going to have to settle for 5th. Julio Barrero loses the spot overall, but still finishes 2nd in class.
Oh, and what a fight there at the very end. Again, battling into turn number 10. One of the major downfalls and pitfalls you suffer from through there. You're going to just slow yourself down like you're dragging an anchor through asphalt. Unfortunately, those 2 drivers learning that lesson the hard way. Doesn't matter too badly there. It's Carlos Barrero getting the victory in that AM category after a very competitive race. But what a race that we were just treated to. Want to give some love to some of the hard chargers there at the very end. Aaron Sunday ended up 9 spots from the drop of the green flag through to the very end. What a drive from that driver in that Ferrari. A popular car throughout the field, and he was able to put on a good performance. Grabbed the race lead in a certain portion, finishes just outside of the top 10. Good race there. If he had a slightly better qualifying, who knows what Aaron Sunday could have done there.
Absolutely fantastic. Of course, that battle for the 3rd place goes to Joshua Vidal and Palanque Grant. You saw the replay there, coming across the line first. What a race that we had here to the finish, and of course it was punctuated by a fantastic AM battle for the win. Let's take a look at our unofficial standings. As you see your winner there, Palanque Grant. We'll talk to him in just a couple of seconds time. He had another dominating race here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. What's the Maunz Raceway Road Atlanta? Palicui Grant, your winner here. D-Sim Racing by 7 seconds over Eduardo Cabal, Carter James, John Krug, Carlos Barrero round out your top 5. That's Ilya Becker, Julio Barrero losing out on overall, but still getting second in class. Joshua Vidal rounds out your AM podium with Keith Stein, Jeff Jacobs, Aaron Sunday, and Ryan Amoyles with all of his problems, Ron, finishes off in 12th.
And then looking through the rest of the pack, David Klimovich ends up in lucky spot P13. David Payton in 14th place. Noah Hogg able to fight back there in that number 41 Porsche, even after a missing front bumper at the start of the race. Jesper Pasternak ends up in P16. Dale Maxwell comes across the stripe in 17th. Chris Thorman is in P18. Both of those drivers one lap down at the end of this race. So too the case for Russ Ruddock in 19th and Bobby Childs completing the cars just one lap down. Johan Alvarez ended up 2 laps down in the number 25 machine. He's in 21st. Elias Akbari will be in 22nd, with Jimbo Pfeiffer and Josh Chinsky both dropping out of this race. Chinsky after an incident on lap 1, Pfeiffer after some drama in the middle portion. So what a race that we were just treated to here, Jeremy. We're batting 1,000 so far here after a brilliant opening race of this brand new series at Road America. We've been treated to another good one here at the sister track of Road Atlanta. Really looking forward to what may be in store throughout the rest of the season. We've gotten off to a very good start.
We really have, no surprise here. You know, you think of XMS, you think it's one of the best series out there on the service. And let's go ahead and talk to our overall winner as well. We talked to him earlier on in the show, and, well, enough to say for Palicui Grant, your winner over 7 seconds. And I don't know what else to say to you, because I felt like we talked a lot in the pre-race show, and I'm just going to come out and say it. You're back.
And Jeremy, I didn't realize that I had to drag Mr. Palicui into the booth for you. So sorry about that slight delay. I was trying to get Carlos here into the booth to have a chat. So Jeremy, I'll pass the mic off to you so we can start this one from fresh.
Yeah, we'll make it this one quick because we already talked to Palicui earlier. But yeah, dude, you're back.
Yeah, that strategy paid off, kept with the tires. Unfortunate incident in the beginning with Joshua. I mean, he had the pace there, but, you know, racing's racing. Take advantage of the breaks you get, and I did that coming to the win today, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, nonetheless, you're able to avoid that. Unfortunately, your teammate not so much. Bobby ended up having to talk to the air traffic controllers there, but once you got out front, it was just, you know, game, set, match. What was the reason, though, for the long pit stop? Was it to make sure you had enough fuel? Should you have gone longer?
I honestly, I think it was. I wanted to make sure I had multiple laps of fuel, and I had the margin to do so, just in case. I also think a part of that was I got caught up in a little bit of traffic and came in a little early, but thankfully when I came out in clear air, so even though it was a longer stop, ultimately it didn't amount to much of a loss.
A couple weeks' time, you got to take more pit strategy into account with Sebring an hour and
I believe Jeremy is active. There we go. I believe our colleague, Mr. Jeremy Scott, is actively being abducted by a UFO, but I think I know the question that he's going to ask. Palicui, we're going to be heading off to Sebring next time out. What are your thoughts heading there? Hopefully with some less UFOs than Mr. Scott's dealing with here tonight.
Yeah, we hope, although it's an active flat land, so I mean, UFO sightings can't be
And it is in Florida, too.
Yeah, hopefully not. I'd rather not be abducted on track, but given that as it may, it's going to be a longer race. Pitch strategy is definitely going to be a factor. One of the things also is going to be whether or not that length is going to be enough to maybe take tires with the double stop. There's going to be some interesting strategy involved. I don't have anything right now, and I don't want to give anything away to my competitors just yet, but given the testing that I've done so far, this is going to be a more seeing whether or not you can keep that fuel level down. I don't think there's going to be any one stops given the length. It's just a little bit above where even if you fuel save, fuel saving is not going to be enough to alleviate the pit stop. So that a bit of strategy I can reveal. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be usually getting your best exits out of each and every corner. Then you got to carry that middle corner speed, in particular in that last corner. It's going to be super key to nailing Sebring and staying ahead. But if I can do that and we can get the strategy in place, then hey, we might make it 2 for 2. But you know, with Joshua back there, it's going to be tough.
Either way, congratulations. We'll see you in a couple weeks' time out at Sebring. I'm back. It's just my Flatlandia stuff. What can I say?
Yeah, no. Well, thank you very much, you guys. And I do see the broadcast you did last week. You guys are doing a great job. So Jeremy, Ron, you keep it up. And Joshua in the booth there. I got a lot of broadcasting experience myself, so you do a good job as well. I just want to give my props to you. Take care, guys. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Palky Grant, your winner tonight. And little does he know all my market number 3 experience. All right, Ron, let's talk to our AM winner.
Yeah, let's have a chat with Carlos Barriero joining us now here in the broadcast booth. Carlos, welcome in. Congratulations on the AM class win. That looked like a pretty fun race here at Road Atlanta. How was it out there, my friend?
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, it was a blast. I was there racing with my brother, so cannot complain.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that family feud right towards the end there, battling it out with your brother for the win in class. Was that fun or a little bit stressful trying not to a small little crash there? It's not only crashing into your teammate in case stuff were to hit the fan, that would also make it a little bit awkward at the dinner table.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I would say we probably have like 20 hours of practicing this track together. So we definitely knew what we were doing, and it was all fun.
Yeah, it certainly looked like a hoot out there, man. I want to ask you about running in that car. You know, we were joking a little bit during this broadcast about that Lamborghini, saying, you know, the chances of seeing a Lamborghini usually contending for a win throughout a season are like seeing Bigfoot ride a unicorn. But you're able to run that Lamborghini very, very well here tonight. How do you enjoy that car?
That is my beloved Lamborghini. I absolutely love it, and every time I get a chance to race GT3, I choose the Lambo, even if it's not the fastest, so I love it so much.
I gotta say, it is certainly one of the best sounding of the GT3 cars here for sure. But
keep you awake.
oh yeah, for sure. It is an absolutely amazing sound coming out of that race car. We're going to hear a little bit of it next time out in 2 weeks' time when the series rocks up to Sebring. That'll be the first of the total of 2 65-minute long races throughout this season. So what are your thoughts heading to that slightly longer race in 2 weeks' time?
I'm looking forward to it. Just got to keep on practicing and keep on getting the hours in, and I'm sure it'll be just as good as this one.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, Carlos, thank you for joining us here in the broadcast booth. And before we let you go and celebrate this class win, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
For sure. Thank you so much to my team, Speed Labs, and my family, my mom, my dad, and obviously my brother. So thank you everyone so much. And my friends supported me as well.
Awesome, Carlos. Thank you for joining us here in the booth. Congratulations on the win. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time when the series rocks up to Sebring.
See you guys.
And that right there was Carlos Barriero joining us here in the booth. And Jeremy, I gotta say, outside of the alien abductions and me talking about mayonnaise being an instrument, that was a fantastically enjoyable race. Another one, you know, we've had 2, and as I said a few moments ago, we are batting 1,000 this season. It's been a hoot so far.
Yeah, there are worse ways to spend a Thursday night. Of course, always love spending it with good friends. Well, that does it for round 2 of the Ricmotech GT3 Racing Challenge. Of course, we definitely want to thank all of our sponsors for making this possible. As I pull up my notes that were shuffled around in the abduction, Ricmotech High Performance Sim Racing Equipment, Go Setups and Go Fast, and the SCCA Foundation. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time as the stars and cars of the Ricmotech GT3 Challenge head south to Sebring, Florida, as we take on an 15-hour racing, but it was more here on the Slow Motion Broadcasting Network. Of course, Ray Esports is back on the air Sunday, August 2nd at 3:30 p.m. I'll be back on the board for the American Muscle Series. It's called NASCAR West. And of course, the SRG Racing Group gets underway as well Tuesday night, following our AMS Series race. Always follow, subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't done so. And on behalf of everybody here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, Dr. Wilkie, make it sound oh so good. My friend and partner, Rob Maunz, alongside. My name is Jeremy Scott. Don't forget to keep it pointed forward, keep it between the ditches, and always keep it greasy side down. We'll see you in a couple weeks' time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Take care, everybody.